Director Blue stood at the massive viewing window of Galactic Shipping Corporation's main hub, their feathers rustling with worry. Below them, dozens of cargo ships sat idle, their valuable contents going nowhere. The automated loading systems had failed again, and this time, it was worse than ever. "Director, the latest reports are in," said Tom, the junior analyst, his green scales shifting nervously as he approached. "We've lost another full day of loading time. The backup systems aren't responding either." Blue's head crest flattened in frustration. This was the third major failure this month, and their competitors were starting to steal their customers. The massive space station that served as GSC's primary hub was meant to be the most efficient shipping center in the galaxy. Instead, it had become a graveyard of stuck cargo containers and malfunctioning robots. "Show me the numbers," Blue said, turning away from the depressing view. Their talons clicked against the floor as they walked to their desk. Tom projected a hologram showing rows of red figures. "We're down 60% in efficiency. The AI systems keep getting confused by non-standard container sizes. They freeze up, trying to calculate the perfect solution, and nothing moves." Blue scratched their beak with a talon, a habit they had when deep in thought. The board of directors would have their feathers if this continued. They had spent billions on the latest AI systems, promising that full automation was the future of shipping. "What about our competitors? How are they handling these issues?" Blue asked, hoping for some insight. Tom shuffled through his datapad. "That's the strange thing, Director. Our best AI is still failing at tasks that even primitive sorting systems handle just fine. It's like we've over-engineered the solution." Blue paused, their head tilting in that distinct avian way. "Over-engineered? Explain." "Well," Tom said, gaining confidence, "I've been studying historical shipping methods. Before full automation, many species used biological workers for loading and organizing cargo. They weren't as fast as our best systems, but they never completely failed either." "Biological workers?" Blue's crest rose in surprise. "You mean actual living beings handling the cargo? That's practically ancient technology." "Yes, but they were reliable. They could adapt to unusual situations. They didn't freeze up when something unexpected happened." Tom took a deep breath before continuing. "And there's one species that was particularly good at it." Blue's eyes narrowed. "No, don't even think about suggesting." "Humans," Tom said quickly. "They're available for hire, they're good at physical tasks, and they have an amazing ability to solve practical problems." "Humans," Blue's feathers puffed out in shock. "Those persistence predators from that death world. The ones who solve problems by hitting things until they work. The species that still uses mechanical tools sometimes." "Exactly," Tom said excitedly. "They're perfect for this. They're strong enough to handle cargo manually if needed, smart enough to work with our systems, and they actually enjoy solving physical problems." Blue walked back to the window, watching another cargo ship join the waiting line. Their career was on the line. The entire company was at risk. Maybe it was time for a crazy solution. "How quickly can we hire some?" Blue asked quietly. Tom almost dropped his datapad. "You're actually considering this?" "We've tried everything else. The board is meeting in 2 weeks, and if we don't have this fixed..." Blue let the sentence hang. Everyone knew what happened to failed directors. "I can have a human work crew here in 3 days," Tom said, already typing rapidly on his pad. "They have a reputation for fast responses when credits are involved." "Do it," Blue said, then raised a talon. "But keep it quiet. If this works, I want solid results to show the board. If it fails..." They shuddered, feathers rippling. "If it fails, I want as few witnesses as possible." Tom nodded and hurried out, leaving Blue alone with their thoughts. The director looked out at the stars, wondering if they had just made the biggest mistake of their career or its most brilliant decision. Either way, in 3 days, they would have humans on their loading docks. The very thought made their feathers itch. But desperate times called for desperate measures, And these were desperate times indeed. 3 days later, Director Blue stood nervously at the station's arrival gate. Their feathers were perfectly groomed, trying to project confidence they didn't feel. Beside them, Tom fidgeted with his data pad, his scales shifting between green and pale yellow with anxiety. "They're here," Tom whispered, pointing at the incoming transport ship. The station's other workers had pressed themselves against the walls, leaving a wide empty space in front of the gate. Everyone had heard rumors about humans, their strength, their endurance, and their strange way of solving problems. Some had even heard they liked to show their teeth as a greeting. The transport's doors opened with a soft hiss. 5 humans walked out, led by a tall one with gray hair. They wore simple blue work clothes and carried small bags over their shoulders. To everyone's surprise, they looked ordinary. "Director Blue," the gray-haired human asked, stepping forward. "I'm Jack, crew supervisor. These are Bill, Pete, Mike, and Dan. We're ready to start whenever you need us." Blue's crest rose slightly in surprise. They had expected roaring, or maybe the showing of teeth they'd heard about. Instead, these humans were professional and calm. "Yes, welcome," Blue said, trying to hide their relief. "Tom will show you to the loading docks. We have quite a situation there." As they walked through the station, Blue noticed how the humans studied everything around them. They weren't just looking, they were analyzing, discussing quietly among themselves, pointing out details that even Blue hadn't noticed before. When they reached the loading docks, the sight was depressing. Cargo containers were scattered everywhere. The robot loaders stood frozen, their AI systems stuck in endless calculation loops. "Well," Jack said, walking around and looking at the mess, "first thing we need is to understand your system. Tom, can you show us how these robots are supposed to work?" Tom stepped forward eagerly, pulling up diagrams on his pad. The other workers watched in amazement as the humans gathered around, asking smart questions and taking notes. "See, that's your first problem right there," Bill said, pointing at one of the stuck robots. "It's trying to be too perfect. Sometimes you need to just move things out of the way temporarily to get to where you need to be." "Exactly," Pete added. "And these stacking patterns, they're mathematically perfect, but practically awful. One odd-sized container and everything stops." The humans spread out, each taking a different section. To everyone's surprise, they started moving containers by hand, using the station's gravity controls and simple tools they'd brought with them. "Watch this," Jack said to Blue as his team worked. "We're going to create staging areas. Instead of trying to put everything in its final place immediately, we'll sort them first, then arrange them properly." Within an hour, the humans had cleared enough space to start proper organizing. They worked steadily, never seeming to tire. When they found a problem, they solved it immediately instead of waiting for perfect solutions. "Director," Tom said excitedly, checking his pad, "efficiency is up 15% already. The humans are teaching the robotic systems to use their sorting method. It's brilliantly simple." Blue watched in amazement as the chaos slowly turned into order. The humans worked like a well-oiled machine, but they also laughed and joked while they worked. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, something Blue had never seen in dock workers before. By the end of the first shift, the improvement was obvious. Ships that had been waiting for days were now being loaded and unloaded smoothly. The robots, reprogrammed with simpler instructions, were working alongside the humans instead of freezing up. "Good first day," Jack said, wiping his forehead as the shift ended. "Tomorrow we'll show you some real efficiency tricks. This is just the basic stuff." Blue's crest rose fully in excitement. For the first time in weeks, they felt hope. Maybe hiring humans wasn't such a crazy choice after all. In fact, it might have been the smartest decision they'd ever made. A week had passed since the humans started working at the station. Director Blue was feeling proud of their decision. The loading docks were running smoother than ever before. Even the board members had stopped sending angry messages about delays. That morning started like any other. The humans were teaching the alien workers how to spot potential problems before they happened. Everything was peaceful until the warning alarms started blaring. Emergency, emergency, crane malfunction detected. The station's AI announced, containment breach possible. All workers must evacuate immediately. Blue rushed to the security screens. Their feathers stood straight up in horror at what they saw. The main loading crane was failing, its arms shaking violently. Worse, it was holding a container of dangerous reactor fuel high in the air. The alien workers ran for safety, following their emergency training. The automated safety systems tried to respond but failed completely. The crane's computer was locked up, frozen by too many emergency protocols trying to run at once. But the humans didn't run. Instead, they moved toward the danger. "Jack, what are you doing?" Blue screamed into the communication system. "You must evacuate. That container has enough reactor fuel to poison half the station." "Can't do that, Director," Jack replied calmly. "If that container drops, it won't matter where we run. Pete, get the manual override. Bill, Mike, we need support cables. Dan, find us some safety harnesses." Blue watched in amazement as the humans sprang into action. They moved like they had practiced this exact situation 100 times, even though nothing like this had ever happened before. Pete reached the crane's control box and pulled out a simple mechanical tool from his pocket. "Classic override engage," he shouted. "We got about 10 minutes before the whole arm gives way." Bill and Mike were already climbing the support structures, moving with surprising speed and grace. They carried strong cables with them, their movements careful but quick. Dan appeared with safety harnesses, distributing them to his teammates. "This is insane," Tom said, watching from the control room. "They're going to get themselves killed." But the humans worked with incredible focus. Jack directed them using simple hand signals, not wasting time with words. Each person knew exactly what to do, fitting together like parts of a well-oiled machine. Bill and Mike reached positions on either side of the shaking container. They threw their cables across, creating a safety net below it. Pete kept the crane's arm from failing completely using nothing but mechanical locks and his own strength. "Almost there," Jack called out. "Dan, we need that backup power rerouted. Now." Dan pulled a set of wires from a nearby panel and connected them in a way that made Tom gasp. It wasn't elegant or by the book, but it worked. Power flowed to the crane's emergency systems, giving them just enough control. Slowly, carefully, the humans guided the container down. They used the cables as guide ropes, steering it clear of obstacles. The crane's arm groaned and sparked, but the humans didn't flinch. They kept working, step by step, until the container touched down safely on the dock. The moment it was secured, all 5 humans sat down right where they were, breathing heavily and grinning at each other. "All clear, Director," Jack radioed, sounding tired but happy. "Might want to get a maintenance crew to look at that crane, though." The main computer's completely fried. In the control room, there was total silence. Blue, Tom, and the other aliens stared at the screens, trying to process what they had just seen. These humans had just done something their best emergency systems couldn't handle. "How?" Tom finally managed to ask. "How did they know what to do?" Blue shook their head, feathers slowly settling back to normal. "They didn't," they realized. "They figured it out as they went along. They saw the problem and just solved it." "That's not possible," one of the other managers said. "Nobody can just solve problems like that without proper protocols and training." But the evidence was right in front of them. The humans had done exactly that, using nothing but simple tools, quick thinking, and teamwork. "Get me the board of directors," Blue said suddenly. "They need to see this. All of it." The next morning, the station buzzed with nervous energy. The corporate investigation team had arrived from headquarters. 3 stern-looking aliens in formal business suits marched through the corridors, led by Chief Inspector Gray, a tall reptilian with metallic scales. "Director Blue," Gray said, entering the conference room. The board is very concerned about reports from your station. First, we hear you hired primitive biologicals. Now we learn about a near disaster with dangerous materials. Explain yourself. Blue stood tall, their feathers perfectly straight. They had prepared for this. I think it's better if I show you, they said, activating the room's holographic display. This is our efficiency data from the past month. Charts and numbers filled the air around them. The investigators leaned forward, their expressions changing from anger to surprise. This can't be correct, one of them said, adjusting her viewing lens. You're showing a 40% improvement in loading times. That's impossible with outdated biological workers. The data is accurate, Tom added quickly, bringing up more detailed reports. The humans completely reorganized our loading systems. They simplified everything. Simplified. Gray almost spat the word. We spent billions developing those advanced AI systems. They're not meant to be simple. Blue nodded to Tom, who played the security footage from the crane incident. The room fell silent as they watched the humans work together to prevent the disaster. Look at them, Blue said softly. No AI assistance. No complex calculations. They saw the problem and solved it using basic tools and teamwork. The investigators watched as the footage showed the humans securing the dangerous container. Their expressions slowly changed from disgust to curiosity. But how do they know what to do? The female investigator asked. Where was their emergency protocol database? They didn't have one, Tom explained. Humans don't work that way. They figure things out as they go. They call it thinking on their feet. Gray's scales shifted color as he thought. Show me their daily operations, he demanded. New footage appeared, showing the humans working on regular tasks. They moved efficiently, often laughing and talking while they worked. The cameras caught them teaching alien workers simpler ways to stack containers, showing them how to spot problems before they happened. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, one investigator noted, sounding confused, even during heavy lifting tasks. Yes, Blue said proudly. That's another thing we discovered. Humans actually like solving problems. The harder the challenge, the more they enjoy it. Impossible, Gray muttered, but he kept watching the footage with intense interest. Watch this part, Tom said excitedly, bringing up a new clip. It showed Jack teaching young alien workers how to use simple mechanical tools alongside the advanced equipment. What is this madness? Gray asked. Why use primitive tools when we have quantum-assisted cargo handlers? Because sometimes simple tools work better, Blue explained. The humans taught us that having options is more important than having the most advanced solution. The investigation team huddled together, speaking in low voices. Finally, Gray turned back to Blue. The board will need to review all of this, he said slowly. But I must admit, the results are impressive. Disturbing, but impressive. Thank you, Blue said, their crest rising slightly. Would you like to meet the human team? They're about to start their shift. The investigators looked at each other nervously. Meeting actual humans hadn't been part of their plan. But curiosity won out. Very well, Gray said. Show us these problem solvers of yours. As they walked to the loading docks, Blue fought to hide their satisfaction. They knew that once the investigators saw the humans in action, everything would change. After all, it had changed Blue's own view of the universe. Sometimes, the craziest choices turned out to be the wisest ones. A month after the investigation, GSC's success was becoming too obvious to ignore. Their station was now processing cargo faster than any other hub in the sector. The competition was not happy about this. Director Blue, Tom burst into the office one morning, his scales pale with worry. We have a problem. Someone's attacking our station's systems. Blue rushed to the control room, where warning lights were flashing everywhere. The main screen showed that someone had hacked into their environmental controls. The temperature is rising in all cargo areas, one technician reported. The cooling systems aren't responding. We're also losing atmosphere pressure control. Blue's feathers puffed up in panic. Evacuate all workers immediately. We can't risk. Hey, why's it getting so warm in here? Jack walked in, wiping his forehead. The other humans followed behind him, looking only mildly uncomfortable. You need to evacuate, Blue squawked. The environmental systems are failing. The temperature is reaching dangerous levels. The humans looked at each other and started laughing. This is nothing, Bill said. You should try working in Arizona in the summer. But the pressure is dropping too, Tom said, staring at his readings. And the humidity is rising. Sounds like a typical day in Houston, Pete added with a grin. Want us to show you how to work through this? Before Blue could answer, Jack's team was already moving. They grabbed some basic tools and headed back to the cargo area. The alien workers watched in amazement as the humans kept working, barely slowing down despite the harsh conditions. First thing, Jack said, gathering the alien workers who were brave enough to stay, let's get some manual air circulators running. Mike, show them how to set up those fans we brought. Mike pulled out several large mechanical fans from their equipment storage. These don't need complex computers, he explained to the amazed aliens. Just point them where you need air movement. Dan was teaching others how to wear simple cooling vests. Your fancy climate suits are great, but sometimes basic solutions work better, he said, helping an alien worker adjust the straps. In the control room, Blue watched the security feeds with growing pride. Not only were the humans still working, but they were teaching the alien workers how to handle difficult conditions. Look at these readings, Tom said excitedly. They're still maintaining 80% efficiency even with the environmental controls down. Our competitors probably thought this attack would shut us down completely. The humans worked through their entire shift despite the harsh conditions. They told stories about working in all kinds of weather on Earth, making the alien workers laugh and forget their discomfort. By the end of the day, the station's technical team had fixed the environmental systems. The sabotage attempt had failed completely. Even better, the station had never stopped processing cargo. You know what the funny thing is? Jack said to Blue later, as they reviewed the day's events. Your competitors actually did you a favor. A favor. Blue's crest rose in confusion. How? Now everyone knows your station can keep running even when systems fail, Jack explained. That's going to be great for business. Plus, your workers learn they can handle tough situations. That's worth more than any fancy equipment. Blue looked at their station's newest efficiency reports. Jack was right. The attempted sabotage had backfired completely. Instead of hurting GSC, it had made them look even more reliable. I never thought I'd say this, Blue admitted, but I'm starting to think humans might be the most advanced technology we could have hired. Jack laughed and shook his head. Not advanced, Director. Just practical. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As they watched the cargo ships being loaded and unloaded smoothly, Blue realized their station had gained something more valuable than advanced technology. They had gained confidence, adaptability, and workers who could handle any challenge. The competition had tried to shut them down. Instead, they had made GSC stronger than ever. News spread fast in the shipping industry. After the failed sabotage attempt, other companies couldn't ignore GSC's success anymore. One by one, they started hiring their own human workers. Look at this, Tom said to Blue one morning, showing his datapad. Red Star Shipping just hired their first human team. That's the 5th company this month. Blue watched the station's busy loading docks through their office window. In the 3 months since the sabotage attempt, everything had changed. Now there were humans everywhere, working alongside aliens, teaching and learning. Director, Jack knocked on the door, entering with a smile. You might want to see what's happening in the main cargo bay. Something interesting is going on. They walked together to the cargo area. There, Blue saw something amazing. Human workers from different companies were meeting during their break time, sharing ideas and teaching each other new tricks. We call it the Problem Solvers Network, Jack explained. Every station with human workers is doing this now. We share what works, learn from each other's mistakes, and come up with better ways to do things. Blue watched as a human from Red Star showed some of GSC's newer workers how to stack odd-shaped containers more efficiently. Nearby, one of Jack's team was teaching workers from another company about their manual backup systems. But they're our competitors, Tom said, his scales changing color in confusion. Jack laughed. Humans don't see it that way. We figure there's enough work for everyone. Better to help each other than fight. The change was spreading beyond just cargo handling. Human workers were finding ways to improve everything they touched. They fixed problems that aliens had struggled with for years, often using surprisingly simple solutions. Did you hear what happened at the Beta station? Tom asked excitedly. Their humans figured out how to fix their gravity generators using parts from old mining equipment. The manufacturer said it was impossible, but they did it anyway. The AI systems were changing too. Instead of trying to handle everything alone, they now work together with human operators. The humans' practical experience combined with AI calculations created better results than either could achieve alone. It's like watching a whole new industry being born, Blue said, their feathers rippling with pride. And it all started here, with our crazy decision. Not so crazy anymore, is it? Jack grinned. By the way, we've been thinking about the fuel consumption problem you mentioned last week. The team has some ideas they want to show you. They walked to a small meeting room where several humans had gathered. The walls were covered with simple drawings and notes. No complex computer models or AI simulations, just practical solutions based on real experience. See, the ships are burning too much fuel because they're following the AI's perfect mathematical course, one worker explained. But if we adjust the route like this, he drew a slightly curved line on the board. We use the gravity wells to help pull the ships along. Less fuel, same delivery time. Blue's crest rose in amazement. The solution was so simple, yet none of their advanced systems had ever suggested. The humans had seen the problem differently, using natural forces instead of fighting them. We're going to test it next week, Jack said. The calculations say it should save about 20% on fuel costs. As they left the meeting, Blue noticed something else. The alien workers weren't afraid of the humans anymore. Instead, they were eager to learn from them, to understand their way of thinking. You know what the best part is? Tom said, checking his latest reports. Every station that hired humans is showing better results, not just in efficiency, but in problem solving, adaptability, everything. Blue nodded, watching their busy station with satisfaction. The shipping industry would never be the same. And maybe, they thought, that was exactly what it needed. 1 year had passed since Director Blue made their crazy decision to hire humans. Now they stood on the stage at the annual Galactic Shipping Conference, looking at hundreds of aliens and humans in the audience. Director Blue, the conference chairman, announced, for outstanding innovation in shipping management and revolutionary improvements in industry practices, we present you with the Golden Star Award. The audience erupted in applause. Blue's feathers shimmered with pride as they stepped forward to accept the award. In the front row, Jack and his team cheered loudly, showing their teeth in what Blue now knew was a friendly human smile. A year ago, Blue began their speech. I made what everyone called a crazy choice. I hired humans to work in our cargo docks. My colleagues said I was desperate. They were right. I was desperate. But sometimes desperation leads us to the best decisions. The audience laughed. Many of them had made the same crazy choice over the past year. Look at our industry now, Blue continued. Our ships run more efficiently than ever. Our workers solve problems instead of just following protocols. We've reduced fuel consumption by 23% across all major routes. And yes, we did all this by embracing what we once called primitive methods. In the year since humans joined the shipping industry, everything had changed. The Problem Solvers Network had grown into a galaxy-wide community. Human workers shared their knowledge freely, teaching aliens that simple solutions often worked better than complex ones. But the most important thing we learned, Blue said, wasn't about shipping at all. It was about thinking differently. Humans taught us that the most advanced solution isn't always the best solution. Tom, sitting in the audience, nodded enthusiastically. His scales now stayed a confident green most of the time. Working with humans had taught him to trust his own judgment more. When that first human team arrived at our station, Blue continued, we thought they would be dangerous. We worried about their strength, their persistence, their strange ways of solving problems. Now we know better. Those very qualities made them perfect for the job. The humans in the audience grinned at each other. They had heard many similar stories from stations across the galaxy. Last week, a young alien worker asked me why humans like to fix things by hand instead of using advanced AI. Blue said, I told her to watch them work. Humans don't just fix things, they understand them. They don't just follow procedures, they improve them. They don't just do their jobs, they enjoy them. Jack gave Blue a thumbs up from his seat. It was a human gesture that had become common across the shipping industry, meaning good job or well done. So yes, I made a crazy choice, Blue concluded. But sometimes the craziest choices are the wisest ones. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. And sometimes the most primitive species turns out to be the most advanced in ways we never expected. The applause was deafening. Aliens and humans stood together, celebrating not just Blue's award, but the change they had all been part of. After the ceremony, Jack approached Blue with a grin. Not bad for a crazy choice, huh? He said. Blue's crest rose happily. Not bad at all. Though I have to ask, did you humans know this would happen? Did you plan to change our whole industry? Jack laughed and shook his head. Nah, we just did what humans always do. We saw problems that needed fixing, so we fixed them. Simple as that. Simple as that, Blue repeated, looking around at the mixed crowd of aliens and humans chatting and celebrating together. You know, I think that might be the most important lesson you taught us. In the end, hiring humans hadn't been a crazy choice at all. It had been exactly what the galaxy needed. A reminder that sometimes the best way forward is to take a step back and look at things differently. Sometimes, the simplest solution is the best solution. And sometimes, the craziest choice turns out to be the wisest one of all.